If I have family entities, but I can't feel them in my body, what could I do?
Okay, so you have family entities, you know you have them, but you don't feel them in your body. What can you do? Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you for that question. There is a reason why you cannot feel the entities in your body. And the reason for that is it helps you be okay with things as they are. How are they? What are family entities doing? So almost all entities come from your family. You basically inherit them. And in fact, actually, a lot of children are born in an unconscious manner because, or like conceived in an unconscious manner because the mother or the two parents can't handle their own entities. So they like need another being to help them handle the load. For example, I know someone who was conceived even through IVF of a sperm donor because her mom wanted a baby so bad and she couldn't even conceive with her own husband. The reason for that was she was very depressed and she wanted a baby to help offload the feeling of sadness. So this woman, she's one of the only women I know who was entitized or got an entity in her body when she was in utero. In utero, this sadness entity was in her body, and as she was forming as like a human being, um, all of our cells are infused with sadness. So if you have a family entity in your body, which is almost everyone, the only reason you won't feel it is because it serves the need of your family. And what that tells me is that in the ego identity of the family as a whole, you are the shadow. So you support the idea of whatever the family wants to think of itself. So let me dive into it a little bit deeper. I teach something called the Wheel of Consent. It is originally founded by someone called Dr. Betty Martin, and I teach it differently than she does. So I'm going to go into what I consider the inner wheel, which is something that she doesn't have. She doesn't have that idea, but in the inner wheel, that's you with you. So if your entities are in your body, right, that's you with you. So your entities would be over here. They're vampiric. They're violating you, and they're crossing your boundaries. Right here, that's your boundary. And that would be you. You're the victim. You're confused. You're confused because you can't feel your boundaries. And the main thing is you have shame. This shame that happens only when you're outside of your own boundaries is what the entity can eat. So it serves the entity for you to not feel your boundaries. If you start to feel your boundaries, you yourself, you're going to go from outside of the wheel to inside. And on the inside, it can't eat from you. It can only eat from you when you're outside. So why is this part of the system or the dynamic where you are a member of your family and this is happening in your body? Well, remember, this is you with you, but with your family, that's something what I call the outer wheel, where there's two different parties. This is the classic wheel of consent that Dr. Betty Martin teaches. You with someone else, you're here. Okay. So on the inner wheel, you're here, you're the slave. Sorry. In the inner wheel, you're here, you feel shame, you're the victim. On the outer wheel, you're here, you're the slave. Okay. You're over serving your parents' needs. And this started when you were quite young. For a lot of people, there's like family secrets, and keeping the secret, is over serving your family, like acting as if it's normal. Sometimes there's sexual stuff. Sometimes the child is the adult, so the child needs to take care of the emotional needs of the parent. Sometimes the child has to do actual physical things in the house that really the adult should be doing. They're doing chores at a level which is higher than their actual age appropriate. So when you do these things for your parents, and now you're an adult and you're still doing these things for your parents, like, for example, they overtext you and you allow it, and you're their therapist and you overtext back. I knew someone who was on retreat in Bali for 10 days and she couldn't stop over texting her parents back, and it was ruining her retreat. Like, she was addicted. She was addicted to helping her family. Um, if you shut up and say nothing when your parents are doing something wrong, clearly wrong, and it doesn't sit well with you, if their habits hurt you and you don't stand up for yourself, this is all over serving your parents. So here, the dynamic is guilt, where they don't feel guilty for being a bad parent, but you feel guilt on their behalf. Like you feel it for them. So this is how you're still their shadow. So here, it's like your parents are eating your guilt. So what can you do if you have family entities? And these entities probably are the thing that cause them to act weird towards you to begin with, to cause them to be a traumatic parent for you. If you have family entities in your body that you can't feel, you doing this, not feeling your boundaries, is the very thing that helps you feel okay with being here. Like you feel okay being there. You like helping your family. You know, this is a secret way to control people because they're infantilized. They're almost like addicted to your help, like the over texting parents, you know? They're like addicted to you emotionally being there for them or something like that. You only feel okay with that because you don't feel your boundaries. So when you don't feel your boundaries, you can't just like suddenly start to feel your boundaries. This is my teaching. You just suddenly can't go from outside of consent to inside of consent. That's almost impossible. So the only thing you can do is stop doing things, in particular, in this case, for your probably adult parents, and you are an adult too. You're probably doing this also in the workplace. You're probably also doing this with your romantic partner. But in this particular case, because you're talking about family entities, you have to stop over-serving your parents because you feel bad for them, because you feel sorry for them, because you don't want to hurt their feelings, because you don't want to pull the rug out from under them. Let's say they're crazy religious. And do you say something like, you know, the Gnostic texts say blah, 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 you know, that would like pull the rug out from under them and just like blow their world apart. And so you just keep quiet, right? You play along with their make believe world. You have to stop doing those things. And the thing is, when you're here, it's probably hard for you to even feel guilt. But it's that feeling of you have some sense of moral superiority, like you're more healed than them, so you can give this to them, you know, this kind of feeling. Whenever that pops up, whatever you're doing in that moment, maybe you're over listening to them on the phone, maybe they're telling you the same story for the third time, stop. If they need you to do something parentified for them that really, as an adult, they should be able to do for themselves, let them dangle in the wind and have a difficult time. Don't step in and rescue them. If they need you to be messed up in some kind of way so that they can feel better and feel as if you need them, this is really interesting, right? There's a lot of adult children who kind of cut themselves off at the knees and are underperforming in life because it gives their parents something to do to take care of them as if they are like a pet. This is still overserving your parents. It looks as if your parents are overserving you, but in reality, you're overserving your parents because in your parents' ego, they are the rescuers, they are the good ones. So then what happens? You have to be the bad one, right? So this might cause you to have a failure, failure in life, failure in the workplace, and also romantic relationships, even because when you're not romantically linked to someone, then you're more like the child who can kind of like stay at home and live off your parents. So stop doing these things. Essentially, remember, this is just the first step. This is just the first step to feeling your boundaries and feeling these entities, because when you stop doing these things, the entities will most likely act up and things might even get worse. But then you're going to start to feel how things maybe have been the whole time anyway, and you were inured to it, like you just were numb to it. So this is basically the way in which you can start to come into consent, like come like into the wheel. Here you're giving. Here you're actually also giving. And so what I recommended you do would put you inside of the wheel and put you in a position to actually receive. You'll get your energy back. Um, okay. Do you have any thoughts, questions, or comments on that response?
What does it look like if you just surrender to the entity?
Okay. So I didn't write it in here, but surrender is right here. So it's an inside of consent, same dynamic of where you're already at. This is passive. So you just give in to the entity. If you do that, if you do that, just a second, you will most likely die very young, maybe in your 40s. Um, you will hate yourself. You will develop overwhelming addictions to substances. You will never have sex. If you do, it will happen like once and you're paying for it. You are your mother's boyfriend. That is for sure. Even if she's not here on earth anymore, that entity came from her. You are your mother's boyfriend, so you're not able to be anyone else's boyfriend, if that makes any kind of sense. If for some reason you already have children, you will not be a father either. Remember, you're too busy being the child of your mother and the boyfriend of your mother, right? So you can't be the father. So your child will grow up fatherless, even if you're physically alive. Before you die, probably for the last 10 years of your life, you're going to be a ghost. You're physically walking around, but you're empty. And you're chain smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, and you smell bad. So basically, you become a walking, talking entity. Most likely, you only have money from the government or handouts from other people. You might even have to eat at the homeless shelter sometimes. You're not alive. So, this is what happens when you surrender to the entity because it's basically saying yes to evil and giving up on this lifetime. Anything else? All right. Thank you for your questions. See you next time. Bye.